Hi everyone, I'm Lindsey Moppert here, joined with our NFL and Bills insider Vic Carucci today. Vic, week 14 already. This time around, it is Bills and Rams. The Bills with a 10-2 record right now, 5 games left in the season. We are in the final stretch. Vic, how critical are these next 5 games in the regular season going to be, especially the next 2?
When you look at what the next goal is for the Buffalo Bills, securing that top seed in the AFC, all of these games could be critical, but certainly this stretch right now, beginning with this Rams game, is high on that list of critical games. And you just have to go out and show what you are. I think the best team in the AFC, I think the team that is worthy of having that top seed, but you got to go out and do it on the field. And coming up against a Rams team that is not as good as the Bills, I don't believe, when you match them up, you go out there and take care of business.
And Vic, specifically these next 2 games, as we said, with the Rams and the Lions, you're looking at 2 teams who are really going to test the Bills' ground defense, right? So what kind of challenge do you feel like this is going to put on the Bills this week specifically, when for the Rams, this might be one of their strong suits?
The next 2 teams are power-oriented and are going to be physical with the Bills. And the Bills have to show that they can handle that. Even in winning against the 49ers and securing that division championship, they struggled against the run. That was the Achilles heel of the Bills, the vulnerability that they showed. They have to somehow become more stout defensively against these next 2 teams. The Rams will take it to them physically, as will the Lions. But just looking at this first game, other than the ability to run the football, I'm not sure what the Rams have that could undo the Bills. But defensively, the Bills need to show that they can stand up to that. And look, they've made some changes. You know, you bring back a Jordan Phillips. You try to shore things up on the inside. You've got Matt Milano back in the lineup. So between, I think, the personnel that's been added to the lineup in the last couple of weeks, as well as schematically loading the box, just trying to have as many people inside as possible, in the middle as possible, to deal with the run. That's where they need to get those stops when they have to. If the Rams are allowed to have the traction of running the football and controlling the tempo of the game, that could mean trouble for the Bills.
And Vic, that's really been a point of emphasis for the past couple of weeks. Teams kind of understanding that maybe that's not their strongest part of their game and kind of targeting them there. So completely spot on with those points. Sticking with the defense now, a big talking point, I think, every Wednesday. We're not really sure what we're getting into, whether a big announcement is coming, a player coming back from injury. This week, Micah Hyde has come back to the Bills in a completely different role than we've seen him in the past. We know his impact in this organization, in the city, on this team. But this time around, he's coming back and he's been signed to the practice squad, kind of in a role where he says, you know, I will do anything that it takes to help this team win. I mean, why do you feel that this move made sense really for both parties?
Well, let's start with Micah Hyde. It made sense for him because the Bills did clinch that playoff spot with the division championship. So Micah knows he is aboard a team now that is going to be playing in the postseason. I think if it were still up in the air, his decision-making might still be up in the air, but he knows what he's a part of. It makes sense for the Bills to have that experience, have that voice in the defensive backs room, and especially among those safeties. Now, the Bills have been solid with Taylor Rapp and Damar Hamlin on the back end. That has not really been a big problem for them whatsoever. But the addition of Hyde, of course, brings that experience and perhaps allows the Bills to have some options now, especially when you come up with an opponent that can challenge them with the deep throwing ability that, say, the Lions have, or going forward into the postseason when you come up against some of the teams they're going to face there, like the Chiefs and others. Hyde's experience and savvy and instincts, all of that is huge. So I think the first contribution that they want him to make would be on the field. You know, he's not just added to be a coach, even though he has that mentoring ability, but you don't sign a player and you don't pay a player to also be a coach. You want him to first and foremost be a guy who can contribute on the field. And I also think it's a security blanket, because if there's a performance issue or an injury issue at safety, now you know what you have, whether it's Micah Hyde stepping in or vice versa. If you put Hyde in there, now you know you've got people behind him.
Yeah, Vic, and Sean McDermott really making an emphasis that, as you mentioned, they still feel very confident in the group, in the safeties that they currently have on the roster now, in Taylor Rapp and DeMar Hamlin, and how they've been playing. I did think it was a little interesting, just the way listening to Micah Hyde talk about the process and how they never closed the door, but really it was Jordan Phillips that kind of got the ball rolling there, texting him, and Micah said he texted him and just said congrats, and then he I guess paid it back and got it in Brandon Beane's mind. So I thought that process was definitely interesting, but clearly all of his teammates very happy to have him back out there. I want to flip things now to the offense.
Yeah.
McDermott, you want to add something there?
I do. I just want to add this. It's great that his teammates want him back, know what he means to the team, and really, we know what he means to the community. Micah Hyde was such a presence here. But let's also consider why it's taken until December to see him back with this football team when we didn't know if we'd see him at all. At the end of last year, in talking with reporters, he made it clear that his entire body went numb on multiple occasions during the past season. Had that neck surgery, had the issues with his neck and the nerves dealing there. And not to get into the weeds about what level of risk he could be taking to come back, at least anecdotally, we know there was an issue. And at least we know that that issue delayed his deciding to return for another season with the Bills. Let's just hope that the risk factor here is such that the man can still be, walking and moving. He's a young guy with a young family, worrying more about football afterlife. And I just think that that's something to keep in mind as well. I want to believe that confidently he comes back, that all the medical examination checked out, but there is still that existed before his return.
And Vic, Micah did say, he said, you can just about guarantee. Now, he didn't even say you can just about. He said, you can guarantee that I will be retiring after this season. So it kind of just goes to show you, too, how much confidence he has in this team. And he said, he was almost watching as a fan in certain ways and watching the team play. And he must feel very confident in the way that they are playing to want to, jump in, as you said, the way that last season ended for him. Again, now I want to flip things to the offense. Sean McDermott today giving his weekly injury update. He said today that no one was officially ruled out. We just got to look at the injury report. There are 5 players with question marks. Now, they're still looking healthier at this point. Obviously, you get Matt Milano back, things like that. We could possibly see 2 of the guys that are listed as questionable, Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman. Possibly we could see them back out there on the field. But guess what, Vic? I mean, the offense they've been rolling along. I mean, what could 2 additions on the offense like this in those 2 guys do for this Bills offense who's kind of already on a roll?
It will be interesting to see whether we will see Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman, or one of the 2, back in the lineup for this game. There's a part of me that thinks holding them out another week could be very beneficial because you look at the opponent, and this isn't to say that you don't want to have your best lineup available for any game, but I think this is a team they can beat with the current players they have, just as they went about beating the 49ers without the help of Kincaid or Coleman. Having them back, though, sure, it adds another dimension. You have Kincaid and his tremendous athletic ability. Even though I thought Dawson Knox played very well in his place as a starter, it would be nice for the Bills to have that additional threat in the passing game. And then with Keon Coleman, the ability to win those 50-50 balls. The guy who can, use the basketball talent he has and his height, I think, to win some battles against DBs. But do you force the issue? Do you want to force the issue with two players who can contribute significantly this, say, early perhaps in the process? Maybe let them heal a little bit more before putting them back out there.
And important to note, at practice today, Keon Coleman still sporting the red non-contact. Dalton Kincaid, on the other hand, not wearing that anymore. So it should be interesting, as you said. The past couple of weeks, I think it's been a question for a couple of different players, offense and defense, just whether you want to push that and put them in that position, or if you'd rather save them for when you really need them most. Now, obviously, a huge part of the success on this Bills offense is thanks to Josh Allen, and he has been playing some of his best football, and it feels like we always say that, Vic, but he really has been, and it goes back to as early as last week in that historic performance that he had. Now, he's taken the lead, obviously, as the MVP favorite. In your opinion, what does he need to do to stay there?
I think for Josh Allen, it's really a matter of staying the course, not having any disaster performances along the way. And what's a disaster performance? A lot of interceptions, a lot of inaccuracy, turnovers, the things that we're looking at that have been critical points for him in the past. But really, what he has done up to this point is prove how valuable he is, and that is the nature of this award, is the singular value that he has to his team and putting them in position to be where they are as a division winner and playoff team. The spectacular performance he had against San Francisco with regard to an amazing play of being credited with a touchdown pass and touchdown reception on the same play. I'm not saying that has to happen for him at all the rest of the way to convince voters that he should be the MVP, but stay solid and stay above the watermark of performing well. But keep in mind, and as a voter, I always make this point, it is not a weekly award. It is a body of work award, and really, we are still early enough in this process with these 5 games left to have an open slate as to who is the winner. So a lot can change in those 5 weeks, and it isn't necessarily that Josh would fall off a cliff, but you have other players to consider, other names that are being mentioned. Saquon Barkley, for one, of the Eagles. Still got Lamar Jackson, the heir apparent, and the guy who is the defending MVP, if you will, and has won it multiple times. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere as an MVP type of candidate. So the performances of those players, the numbers that they put up will still be considered. But yeah, if you look at it on a week-to-week basis, sure, Josh stands very tall right now, but let's see what happens over the course of these next 5 weeks.
And Vic, I think, the biggest difference that you kind of notice, or at least I notice with this offense, is just that they're playing loose. They're having fun out there. I think Deion Dawkins said it best yesterday that, Josh is the leader of this offense, right? And when he's feeling good, he's playing good. The vibes are good. And that's honestly just how I feel like they're operating right now. And if they can continue that this Sunday in LA, it could possibly be a good outcome. So Bills and Rams, Week 14, we've got a 4:25 kickoff. Of course, we will be back to talk more about the outcome of that game. But for now, with Vic Carucci, I'm Lindsey Moppert, and we'll see you here next time.